Today, I want to talk about some pretty eye-opening stories. First up is that controversial broadcaster from Germany who somehow managed to make a comeback. Then there's the German chancellor who's ramping up efforts against extremism in university classrooms. Also making waves is a satirist who's facing consequences for a joke that stepped over some unspoken boundaries. And don't forget about customs agents who are now on the lookout for your vacation flowers. On the other side of the channel, a former French president is penning letters from prison. Now, across the Atlantic, there's a surprising declaration that points fingers at us as the real problem. And trust me, I've held back the most unsettling news for the end. Having spent years in one of those fancy newsrooms filled with marble lobbies and editors who often care more about crafting a story than about the facts, I've seen it all. I watched as they buried inconvenient truths and twisted stories to suit their narratives. Eventually, I realized I had a choice to make. Stick with the comfort of corporate media or step away while keeping my integrity intact. So I chose to leave and operate independently. I'm not beholden to any corporate overlords, which means I can bring you the stories that actually matter, unfiltered and straightforward. That's my promise to you every time. So if you appreciate this kind of independent analysis, the kind that digs deeper and connects the dots that others ignore, hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Now, here's what I really want to emphasize today. What we do here is becoming increasingly rare. We fact-check relentlessly and verify our sources. We dedicate hours to ensure that we're not contributing to the river of fake news that's flooding every other platform. That kind of work is not easy, and it's only possible because of viewers like you who support what we're doing. If you're in a position to help, even in a small way, it would mean a lot to me and keep our operation running without compromising our independence. Stick with me until the end, because what I'm about to share will change your perspective on where we currently stand in the world. The reality we thought we understood has completely derailed. If you thought that 2024 was chaotic, just wait. December 2025 hit us with a reality check that would wake up even the most stubborn optimists. Today's news doesn't read like a normal bulletin. It feels like the script for a twisted dystopia where the corrupt reclaim power. Satirists are facing criminal charges for their words, and former presidents are counting the days in solitary confinement. It's honestly hard to believe how the situation in Europe continues to unravel. Our closest ally across the ocean has officially labeled us as civilizational dead weight. Seriously, we're witnessing some major tectonic shifts, and I have 6 compelling pieces of evidence that suggest Europe is in its final peaceful days. Let's start with Germany, shall we? They're still grappling with the fallout from inflation and political turmoil, and now they've received a wake-up call that's echoing in the ears of every taxpayer. Patricia Schlesinger, the former director of RBB, has somehow managed to resurface, which feels like a punch in the gut to every citizen who's been paying their dues. You'd expect that after the massive scandal she was involved in back in 2022, she'd be out of the game for good. I mean, we all remember the outrageous details of that whole mess. From massage chairs in her extravagant Audi, which set the taxpayers back 150,000 euros, to those lavish dinners hosted in her private home, supposedly for business but looking more like banquets for Roman elites. There was one dinner for Berlin's Ali chief Maretta Rissenbeck that ran over 200 euros. And who could overlook those extravagant gatherings that involved her husband, Gardspurl, and Berlin's police chief? All those events drained thousands from the broadcaster's budget. And let's not forget the infamous office renovation scandal, which cost a jaw-dropping 1.4 million euros for fancy new flooring and Italian furniture. The sting of that expense is still fresh. Now, here's the kicker. Schlesinger has snagged a cushy new position elsewhere. It's a real slap in the face to all those hardworking people who diligently pay their broadcasting fees. Her return isn't just about hiring someone. It reflects the mindset of the entire German elite. They look out for one another. While everyday folks are tightening their belts and cutting back on heating costs, the architects of this so-called system, who squandered millions on fancy floors and luxury furnishings, seem untouchable. This situation leads us to an important question. If blatant abuses like this don't result in social backlash, what on earth counts as wrongdoing in modern Germany? But wait. It gets even more fascinating. While the elite are busy enjoying their lives, there's a different kind of battle taking place in our streets and lecture halls. It's a real struggle over identity itself. Federal Chancellor Friedrich Merz from the CDU has been cranking up the rhetoric with every passing crisis. It seems like tensions are only rising. In a bold move, the Chancellor recently visited Hanover Medical School, sending ripples through Germany's higher education landscape. It marked a significant shift in the country's cultural policies when he firmly stated that those coming from the Muslim world need to recognize that Germany is a secular state. This comment didn't come out of nowhere. It was a reaction to a growing trend of radicalization on university campuses, a situation that many liberal university administrators have ignored for too long. What really set him off were unsettling events at Kiel University and Berlin's Charité. Student groups linked to extreme ideologies took it upon themselves to enforce gender segregation, seating men and women apart in auditoriums and inviting speakers who espouse rigid interpretations of religious texts. The Chancellor wasn't holding back when he declared, "We will not allow German universities to become branch offices of medieval institutions." He's calling for immediate action, demanding what he describes as a necessary cleanup. His message about tolerance not being a surrender to outdated beliefs is striking a chord with many, although it's sparking outrage among left-leaning activists. Now, this is no longer just debate, it's a crucial fight over who will influence the minds of the next generation, whether it will be an enlightened Europe or something much less progressive. The Chancellor has made his stance clear, and there's no turning back. It's truly hard to believe that such direct commentary has come to the forefront. Meanwhile, while radicals in universities may get a mere warning, everyday Germans face real consequences for what they say. Take the recent situation in Dresden, for example, a trial that will undoubtedly be referenced in textbooks as a case of stifling free speech under the guise of new ethics. A satirist and member of the Alternative for Germany party, Elmar Gurke, was fined 1,200 euros for insulting a Bundestag deputy from the Greens, Tessa Ganser. The judge, Thomas Henschel, didn't hold back in labeling Gurke's act as malicious defamation that crossed the line of acceptability. At the core of this conflict is where biology meets ideology. Gurke poked fun at Ganser's identity in a crude, satirical way, and as a result, he's now facing the consequences. This ruling sets a concerning precedent. Any joke or satire aimed at a politician's self-identification can now be met with severe repercussions. Right now, we're seeing quite a divide in society. Some folks believe that treating certain actions as criminal is a step toward justice and protecting vulnerable groups. On the flip side, others think we're heading into a scary place where just cracking a joke could get you a criminal record. That fine of 1,200 euros isn't just a small slap on the wrist. It's a clear message from the state about the limits on freedom of expression, especially if your opinions don't match up with the prevailing narrative. Meanwhile, the German bureaucracy is going about its business as if nothing's wrong, busy crafting regulations that seem downright ridiculous. For instance, the Agriculture Ministry has just issued a stern warning to all vacationers. Don't even think about bringing back any exotic flowers, or, heaven forbid, a simple potted plant. New European Union rules have been rolled out, supposedly to protect against pests like the notorious Japanese beetle. But now any plant you try to bring home is treated like contraband. So imagine this. If you pack an innocent orchid without a phytosanitary certificate, something that's tougher to get than a visa to the United States, you risk not only having your beloved plant destroyed right at the border, but also facing a hefty fine. It's a bit absurd when you consider that while customs officers are hunting down grandmothers with geraniums in their luggage, undocumented migrants and extremist ideologies slip through the borders without a hitch. It feels like common sense has been thrown out the window in a place where bureaucracy reigns supreme. And just as Germany is facing this botanical crackdown, France is dealing with a drama of its own, featuring a controversial figure. Former President Nicolas Sarkozy, who's found himself on the wrong side of the law due to allegations of Libyan financing, has recently published a memoir from prison, cleverly titled Diary of a Prisoner. Released on December 10th, it's already creating a buzz, likely headed straight for bestseller status. Sarkozy spent a mere 20 days in a cramped cell at the notorious La Santé prison, and he's drawn comparisons to the Count of Monte Cristo, claiming that his time there was a kind of spiritual cleansing amidst all the chaos. But this memoir isn't just a collection of reflections, it's a political statement. Sitting in solitary confinement under constant watch, he's trying to rewrite his narrative, portraying himself as a victim of unjust legal systems. His descriptions of prison life make it sound like there's little to see or do, which adds an ironic twist to his self-portrayal. So let's take a moment to chat about a pretty wild situation. You've got this guy, Sarkozy, who's trying to make the most of his tough spot. He's turning his prison sentence into this grand tale, almost like a hero's journey for Europe, which kind of feels like trying to make lemonade out of lemons. But it's not just about him, it's really a sign of bigger changes. We're seeing an end to the untouchables. Even the fancy folks at the Elise Palace aren't safe from the reality of prison life anymore. A lot of folks think this is just for show, a way to grab attention or push book sales. Now, if you thought that was jaw-dropping, wait until you hear what's brewing over in the United States. There's this new national security strategy that came out on the 5th of December, and honestly, it feels like a verdict rather than a policy. For the very first time, the US is putting Europe in the hot seat, calling it the biggest problem in their quest for what they like to call American greatness. Talk about a plot twist. The document claims that Europe has lost its way, becoming unrecognizable due to unchecked migration and fading cultural identity. It's a tough message, suggesting that the US plans to step in and steer Europe back on track, which basically translates to intervention. This is huge. It's like a geopolitical earthquake. The Americans are no longer seeing us as equals, but as patients in need of treatment, maybe even a quarantine. When they start saying Europe needs to regain its civilizational confidence, it sounds more like a stern command than a friendly nudge. It really feels like they've written us off. Our old world partner is waving goodbye. Now, it's a matter of survival in a game where we're not even part of the play. We're just the game board. And let's get real for a minute. This isn't the language of cooperation. It's how you talk about a wayward child, which shows just how much this relationship has changed. But here's the kicker that nobody seems to be addressing outright. If Washington thinks our institutions are falling apart, what exactly do they plan to do about it? All these events aren't just random mishaps. They're symptoms of a much larger issue that we need to pay attention to. It's honestly hard to believe how things are playing out. We've got folks like Schlesinger showing that accountability really seems to be just a fantasy for those in the upper echelons. Meanwhile, a chancellor is talking tough about cracking down on campus extremism, while people get fined for making jokes and customs agents turn their attention to vacation flowers. Then there's a former French president peddling his victim narrative right from a prison cell. And towering over it all, there's an American administration that's come to the conclusion that we're the problem, not the solution. The old social contract is in tatters, our former alliances have dissolved, and all those certainties we used to have about who we are and what we stand for, they're just fading away before our eyes. So, what does the future hold? That's the million-dollar question we're all grappling with. Frankly, I'm not sure anyone has a clear answer, but I do know one thing: we can't just sit back and let whatever happens unfold without engaging. We need to recognize it, talk about it genuinely, and figure out what kind of future we're actually willing to embrace. If my analysis helped connect some dots for you or gave you a better sense of the forces shaping our world, I'd really appreciate it if you could hit that like button. Subscribe to this channel and drop a comment about your thoughts on these developments. Also, if you value independent journalism that stands firm against narratives or agendas, consider supporting this work. It's viewers like you who enable me to keep delivering the truth in an unfiltered and uncompromising way. The most interesting part is always at the end, and you just caught a glimpse of it. Now, what are we going to do with this information? I want to chat with you directly for a moment, just between us. The work we do here isn't easy. Every single story you just heard took countless hours of verification, checking sources, digging into official documents, and ensuring we're not just reiterating catchy headlines, but actually providing the truth. In a world where fake news spreads like wildfire and platforms are flooded with half-truths and outright lies, we've committed ourselves to the tough task of fact-checking. It requires time, resources, and yes, it takes a toll. But I'm dedicated to this because I believe you deserve better than the manufactured narratives being pushed at you from every angle. So here's my request. If you find this kind of independent, diligent journalism important, hit that like button right now. Subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. If you're enjoying the episodes and want to stay in the loop, turning on notifications is a great way to keep up. But honestly, there's more to the story. If you're able to support this work, even with just the cost of a coffee each month, it would truly mean the world to me. Your support is what empowers me to continue this mission without bowing to corporate pressures or outside influences. You're the reason this work continues, and you help keep the truth alive.